I've been speaking in Speaker's Corner since the
150 years.
December 1985, and I came here and spoke just before going to France for a big protest movement there, and then I came back and started speaking here on a regular basis, pretty much every week for 37 years now, apart from when I was abroad. And one of the things I want to focus on is the people of Speaker's Corner, and then I want to talk about the campaign over the last 2 years to defend Speaker's Corner against state aggression and violence, which was used systematically against us over the last 2 years. I was in court even last Friday, or just Friday past, accused of coming to Hyde Park, trying to speak on the 27th of December 2020. So these are the two themes I'm going to cover. So the background, just a few anecdotal stories about people at Speaker's Corner. I was here still when Lord Soper used to speak, as a friend over here, well, he used to speak over here. And he had a tremendous oratorical style. He was almost like Shakespearean in his language. He had enormous vocabulary, an enormous ability to suddenly, you know, it's almost like moments of epiphany. When someone's speaking, they say something and it suddenly holds the whole crowd. And there was a time here, I think it was his 90th birthday, where he came and spoke here, and there were literally 500 or 600 people gathered in this part of the park listening to him give his oration. And I just posted a few days ago, you can find it on YouTube, there's a video from the 1950s, I think it is, or late 40s, of Lord Soper standing here and speaking. And again, it was that atmosphere that he was able to hold a crowd. During the war, famously, there was a guy called Leslie Jones used to sell pamphlets here about Speaker's Corner in the underpass down there. And he wrote one about Lord Soper and Speaker's Corner. And in there he said, there was one moment in 1940, I think it was 40, during the Blitz. And Lord Soper was speaking over there. A bomb was heard, and so he said, "Hold on a minute," and the crowd held. "I shall carry on speaking," and so he carried on speaking right throughout the Blitz, and and he started speaking in 1926 at Tower Hill, and then came to Speaker's Corner in 1940 first of all, and spoke from that time up until his death. I think it was 1998, if I remember right. I attended the funeral in his Methodist church. Now, there were other characters. One character I should mention immediately is a man who's just published a magnificent book on Ladbroke Grove and Notting Hill, and his name is Ishmael Blagrove. He spoke here for 30 years and more at Speaker's Corner. He's retired now from speaking. In fact, he's retired from all these type of activities. But they had a meeting in the Tabernacles in Notting Hill a few days ago, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people at this meeting from the entire community, the organisers of the Notting Hill Carnival, people who fought against the repression of people in the, I think it was called Mangroves 9 or whatever it was, the squatters movement people, including people like Piers Corbyn involved in that, Tony Allen of the countercultural movement, who also was a regular speaker for decades here and was the founder of modern comedy in Britain. And and Ishmael had association with the entire black community in London and to a large degree internationally. There was a guy I didn't even know about called Michael X. There was a guy called Roy Saw, who used to speak, a tremendous speaker. He would hold a crowd, again, be able to gather them, hold them. And these at Speaker's Corner are random crowds, passing people going through Hyde Park, who, if you can capture and hold the audience and bring the audience in, illustrate the way in which oratory works in real life. And that occasionally I've been able to do it, and you can, once you do it and you're motivated around the subject matter, you don't only have to do it at Speaker's Corner, you can do it in Leicester Square or Trafalgar Square, anywhere where there's an open space. You can stand up, and if you appear to be moved in what you're saying, committed to what you're saying, and you're not purely mad, you will be able to gather a crowd. And don't forget, people talk about religious nutcases. Lord Soper was moved, as he believed, by the Spirit of God and the Spirit of Jesus. That's what motivated him. He was fanatical about this. That's what he spent his life promoting. And he believed that actually social justice and struggles to improve the rights of the people were an expression of the will of God. And he was an agent in that respect, temporarily on earth, fighting for those ideals.
Was a socialist.
And he believed that Jesus, I remember hearing once, and there was a Ford workers' strike. And he started his meeting, or someone said, what about the strikers? And he goes, I believe the Ford workers are serving the purpose of Jesus, or something similar to that he was saying. Now, there was another guy mentioned in Ishmael's book, Maxwell. He's still alive. I see him sometimes around. But Maxwell was a huge. I was reading this book this morning, about Frontline by Ishmael Blago. No, Maxwell. You know, black rights, always like being mouthy to people. Yeah, he knew everybody. He knew the Beatles. He knew Jimi Hendrix. All this as a music promoter, and he promoted black music within Britain and played a big role in doing so. Marcus Garvey was a speaker in London, the black rights activist, the Return to Africa movement. You know, there was the Indian Workers Association. There have always, when Lenin came to Speaker's Corner in 1902 and 3, he set out to learn English by watching the speakers speak. He was particularly enamored by an Irish speaker who he would watch and tried to stay. He knew English in written form and writing. But he couldn't speak it. And he learned at Speaker's Corner, but he was also keen on the religious speakers. And he would go from church to church and watch the church speakers speak and the preachers speak, and the people heckle the preachers, which is a tradition that of course exists, as you've seen at Speaker's Corner today. It still exists. I disagree with those who think that this is some threat. When I first came to Speaker's Corner, there were a group of people, very vociferous group in the associated around the Monday Club, which was a Conservative Party sort of faction, and they trained themselves up at Speaker's Corner to heckle people, and initially I thought they're coming for me, attacking me, and after a few months I learned you just got to deal with it, and the way to deal with it is you take what they're giving, you know what they're coming with. You learn their lines and you repeat them back, and people started there. First of all, they used to say to me, oh, are you a double act? Like me and Toad, there was a guy called Toad, you know. Are you a double act, they said to me, or Matthew Palmer, you know, and they say, you're a double act, and you had to like bite the bullet, tolerate these people being there. They hated you, you hated them, but somehow as long as you held the thing together, you could still get your ideas across, still get your views across, still get your message across, and come back and feel confident the next week as well.
And the Socialist Party
the Socialist Party of Great Britain had a guy called Harry, who used to speak here, and he was in Moscow in 1921 and saw Lenin and Trotsky at the, I think it was the Communist International Congress. He was in the Youth League then, I believe it was. And then he joined this Socialist Party of Great Britain, who did didactic work. He was a tremendous didactic speaker on the basic principles of philosophy and economics of Marxism. Now, you don't have to like what someone says, but Speaker's Corner, as Leslie Jones used to say, is the university of the people. And it allowed people to come to Speaker's Corner who have no knowledge. People who we used to call them tramps, now they call them homeless. Tramps used to come up here and they would would stand next to multi-millionaires and argue about communism or Christianity or Islam. And so that was the tradition which I've experienced over the decades at Speaker's Corner. Unfortunately for me, I was involved in a couple of Marxist groups. They all seemed to kick me out. And now they condemn me as a right-winger. So I'm a little bit weary about the labels people have used, because over the last couple of years, people have accused me, oh, I'm in association with Wilsey. I'm in association with the right wing, and so on. Why? Because we were opposing the single greatest act of international tyranny in history. The imposition of lockdowns and coronavirus dictatorships across the entire world on a lockstep basis, which appeared to us here in Hyde Park as the attempts by police and the de facto reality of the police closing down Hyde Park on and off for 2 years and arresting those of us who, there were times when we just walked into the park and people were arrested. just for walking into the park. And it wasn't anybody walking to the park, it was anybody entering the park who was a known face at Speaker's Corner. And the reason we were able to defeat them was because at the end of 3 anti-lockdown protests, we gathered here at Hyde Park. We agitated for people to defend Hyde Park. One occasion, the police were forced out in this direction. Another occasion, the police in open fields, just like in the 1850s. They had lined up about 150 police, making charges at us with their batons flying, grabbing small women, in particular small women, forcing them to the floor, handcuffing them, dragging them away, and we pushed them back out of the park on that occasion. And the final occasion was last year on, I think it was the 24th of April. We came to Hyde Park and we drove them out of there. Was a band playing here, Jam for Freedom. The police decided to close down the event here and we drove them out of Hyde Park. First they came storming in. I remember Laura here, seeing the picture of her, turned around, pushed her bum against them, forced her back like that. And everyone was going, get out of the park, get out of the park. And there were surreal scenes, the most fantastic imagery by Wilsey, by Sam, by Jim and others, of these smoke bombs going off and in and out of the sound of the music still not playing, but the instruments have been turned into this weird surreal sound. And it was like something out of a film, except better, because it wasn't a film, it was us maintaining and defending our basic rights at Speaker's Corner, and the right to speak, the right to discuss, the right to organise, the right to protest. Those moments last year were seminal moments in the fate of freedom of speech and the right to demonstrate in Britain. And unfortunately, those on the left who refuse to attend will forever be condemned for their lack of willingness to stand up for the rights of the people. These are the ways we achieved our rights here. They will be in future the ways we maintain our rights. And there are many new conflicts coming. Long live Speaker's Corner, ladies and gentlemen.